Hey, good morning again. John Marshall with Suncoast MPI, and we are Suncoast MPI TV. And I've had a lot of guests on the show, and all the guests are members of Suncoast MPI. And as the owner, I always encourage, and what we look for are people that are rock stars at what they do, as we're seat specific, and that have servants' hearts and committed to the commitment to make the chapters thrive. And Mr. Marlowe, I've been delighted to know him. He's been involved a lot longer than I've owned MPI, and I'm really delighted to have him on the show today, and he fits all those check marks and then some, and he's a pillar in his community, including the mayor of New Port Richey.
That's correct, not to be confused with Port Richey.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for being here,
My pleasure.
Mr. Marlowe. I'm excited you're here, and why don't we just start by just telling everybody who you are and what makes you tick.
I'm a Navy brat, grew up in Newport Richey after my dad got out of the military and graduated Gulf High School. Went off to college, met my wife, came back and settled back down in Newport Richey.
Never left. That's awesome. That's great. So how about let's drive down into, let's just get right into it and talk about your company a little bit.
Well, Gulf Coast Networking is a wide-ranging computer technology company. We deal with computers and computer networks for small businesses and for individuals, and we also do website work.
Okay, you're awesome. And I know you do great work. I've seen it. So you've been around for a while.
We have been in business now 15 years.
15 years. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. How about let's go to how did you get to where you are today? I mean, you just didn't happen. You started an IT shop, and 15 years later, you're very successful. So how did you get to where you are?
It started off as a hobby, and I like to describe it as a hobby run amok. Was involved with the computer bulletin board scene back in the 80s. In the early 90s, there was this thing that was being talked about called the internet that would let you connect computer bulletin boards. And I thought, this would be a good idea. So we connected and ultimately became one of the very first internet service providers in West Pasco. I like to tell folks we were an internet service provider before Al Gore decided that he was going to invent the internet. It was really true. We were doing that in 1993. And as things progressed in the internet world, it became apparent that a lot of our internet customers needed help with their computers. And so we started providing help to them. And then as the internet changed and transformed to now where you've got basically Spectrum and Frontier are the only two internet providers, well, that's okay because we're doing work for our clients now.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great story. And you were in before Mr. Gore, so that's impressive. So how about you? You're not the only one that's out there that does what you do. So, so what really kind of sets you apart and differentiates you within your company and within the marketplace?
I think longevity. We've been there 15 years.
Absolutely.
Plus the background before that on the internet side. But we've also picked up the tools necessary to do the job right. We have the ability to provide remote technical support, not only for our business clients, but individuals. We can take over your keyboard and mouse and do things for you without you having to drag your computer into the shop or to pay us to come out to fix it. Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's awesome. So 15 years, you've seen a lot of things happen between that year 1 and 15. Fair to say, and things change. What do you see as we kind of continue to go on, as you have your next 10 to 15 years in business?
I think what's going to happen is we're going to see more things based in the cloud. We're seeing that transition now. A lot of folks are discovering that they can run their business with cloud-based servers as opposed to necessarily having a server on site. There are still some cases where it makes sense to have an on-site server, but that case is less compelling than it used to be. And particularly as the internet speeds go up. It used to be a meg and a half T1 connection was a huge internet connection. Now it's not unusual for people to have 200, 300, 400, 500 megabyte connections, and the gigabyte connections are basically right around the corner for here in West Pasco.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, that's a big pipe that's coming down.
It is a huge pipe. And so things that you couldn't do before now make a lot of sense to do online.
Yeah, that's awesome, and yeah, and that's sooner than we think, right?
It very soon. The county has been working on developing a connected city in central Pasco that'll be designed from the ground up to have gigabit Ethernet.
Okay.
And so it's in the area,
Right?
and it is going to happen in Newport Richey. I know that we have had some businesses in the downtown that have used twin 500 meg connections.
Oh, interesting.
So they've already been using gigabit right in the downtown.
Look at you guys, right at the cutting edge here in Newport Richey.
Pretty much.
I love it. That's fantastic. I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that. So, what actually drives you? What would you say motivates you?
The biggest motivation is just that I wake up in the morning and I can't wait to get to work. I am that excited. I love what I do. I love being able to help people, answering questions that maybe they don't have the answers for. Had a client, he's one of our business customers, called me up this morning fairly early and said, I want to get an internet connection between my house and the barn out on my farm. How do I do that? And I said, well, yeah, there's a couple ways we can do it. And I discouraged him from putting Cat 5 cables because of the lightning issue we've got, and said, if I were going to do that, I would do it with a wireless access point. And went online, checked with one of my suppliers that actually has a kit. He can put one of the access points on his house, the other on the barn, and it will automatically connect up and start working. It'll solve his problem, and it's very inexpensive.
Wow, that's really cool. And I bet he was fired up about that.
He was. I sent him the spec sheet on, told him, when you're ready, let me know, we'll get you taken care of.
Yeah, fantastic. So as you look back over your time, whether it's career or even personal, what are some things that you look back and that you're really most proud of, Mr. Marlowe?
Having been married for almost 45 years to the same woman, she is long-suffering for sure. We have raised two kids who've turned out pretty good, and I'm very proud of that. What little I can take credit for in having raised them right. My daughter lives here in the area with her 5 kids, so I've got 5 grandkids that we can see on a regular basis, and my son, who's been in the military, is finally back in the U.S.
Okay.
So we're going to get to spend a little more time with him.
Good. Is he going to be here for a little bit?
He should be for the next several years.
Okay, fantastic. In 45 years, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, you don't hear that very often these days.
No, you don't. We're survivors, and that's something that, I didn't think about it. It just sort of happened. All of a sudden, we have been married a really long time, and a lot of folks don't ever come close.
No, not at all. Amen to that, and thank you for sharing that. How about let's talk about some of the goals as we kind of have like 4 minutes or so to think about this through. What are some of the goals that you have upcoming for you?
To continue to grow the business, to reach out and make people aware that we're out there.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that I wanted to do the advertising today.
For sure.
But to let them know we're here, we've been around, and we can help them with the problems that they're facing with their computers, their computer networks, and technology in general.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's 15 years. I'm sure there's not that many that have been around that long around here. So, I mean, let's skip from the mountaintops and shout it out. And so hopefully this medium will be one way to help to catapult your business.
We can certainly hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about a famous or inspirational quote. How about that? You have something in your hip pocket that you like? It's a go-to?
If you love what it is you do for a living, you never work a day in your life. And that is very true, and I can vouch for it.
Yeah, I love that too. I totally agree. And all these people are floundering around. It's like, find your passion, find your love, and go for it.
If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're in the wrong job.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. How about this? And this goes right in hand with it. The best piece of professional advice that you actually had ever received?
That was to follow my dream.
Follow your dream?
Absolutely.
Follow your dream? Who gave you that?
Several people as I was going through college. My dad was very supportive as well.
Good.
And you've got to be happy at what you're doing, and follow that dream.
Yeah, you're inspiring me because I'm generationally different. I'm raising my kids are 14 and 12, so those are the things that we continue to pound into our children's head, and in a nice way, of course.
Absolutely.
But no, thank you for sharing that. Hey, if you don't mind, how about you've been involved with Suncoast MPI for quite some time, a lot longer than me. We've been around 29 years actually. Next week, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with MPI?
Experience has been good. I've met a lot of people who I would never have run into otherwise.
Right.
I've used a number of them professionally, and most recently, Corrine Kugel, who helped get me set up on health insurance.
Good.
And as I have now made the transition to Medicare, she walked me through that, which can be daunting.
Right.
But she walked me through. Great person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had the opportunity to use some folks that I've met through MPI for contracting work on our house.
Sure.
I live in a 100-year-old house. I tell folks you almost have to have a GC on retainer.
Yeah, probably so.
But we've had work done on a house from people I've met through MPI.
Yeah, that's great, and I appreciate you sharing that. It's like we're here to make money, and we do, but there's so many other things that come around with it as well. So as we kind of close out for our last minute here, you want to talk about maybe one piece of advice you would give to your customers or clients?
Absolutely. The thing that I would like folks out there to understand is that there are a lot of scammers out there.
Yeah.
Microsoft does not make phone calls. The Internal Revenue Service does not make phone calls to you telling you that you need to send them money in Bitcoins. And you need to have somebody that you can trust so that when you get an email or one of these funny phone calls, you can call them up and say, is this real? Is this fake?
Right.
And we're happy to do that for you, to help keep you from getting scammed, getting ripped off by the people out there that would take your money and clean out your bank account.
Yeah, that's words of advice. Microsoft's not going to call you. No. So Gulf Coast Networking, Rob Marlowe, absolute delight to have you on the show.
Well, thank you.
Pleasure to know you, and just thank you for being part of us.
Well, thank you very much.